Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today's video is kind of like a part 2 of yesterday's video. So yesterday we played a Blue-White Miracles deck that came from Phil from the Eternal Durdles podcast. They played it at the Magic Legacy Cup and we played it yesterday and we had a little bit of a rough time here and there because our opponents were mainly playing like Ancient Tomb and combo decks and it was just really rough for us. Whereas when Phil took it to the Magic Cup, it was mainly fair decks because you tend to have a bit more fair deck representation when you're going to a paper event than you do when you're playing online. So I was chatting to Phil and he suggested this build for the more unfair matchups that we find online. So this is more into the expected online meta. So let's get right into it. So the end game of this deck is still the same. We have Mystic Sanctuary. This is a thing that we're trying to leverage very heavily in this deck where we get the Thwart going. So we counter their spell and pick up our Mystic Sanctuary. Then we play our Mystic Sanctuary, pick up our Thwart, and we just have this lock where we can sort of soft lock our opponent out of the game, whilst we've still got some other bits and pieces going on. So we've got some other counter magic to go with it. So we've got Force of Wills, we've got Counterspell, we've got Consign. We even have a Cryptic Command, which is an absolute banger from the past. Not sure how good it is necessarily in Legacy, but having this as a one-off that we can go and grab isn't the worst in the world. Being able to bounce something nasty out of play that then we can like Thwart lock is pretty good. Being able to tap stuff down can be important to buy us time. It's a nice card. We've got the cantrips you'd expect, so we've got Brainstorms and Ponders. We are a lower land count deck than you would expect for control deck because we're in the 4 Lorien Revealed, which I actually think is pretty nice here. It gives us more blue cards, and it's just a nice thing for the sort of mid to late game as well. We've got the white spells you'd expect, so Plows, Endings, and Terminus. So we've got ourselves a one-of Volcanic Island, so we can get the additional colour on the Prismatic Ending. And we also have Waterlogged Teachings. So this is a blue-black land, or it's a search library for an instant or card with flash. So this can be a black mana, so we can do a Prismatic Ending for 4, which can kill the One Ring, which is interesting to me. Then we've got this column of cards, which is really interesting. So we have Merchant Scroll, which can search for blue instants, basically. So we're going to be, mainly pulling up some like counter magic-y type stuff. But we've got a few spicy singletons that we'll get to in a second. And we've got some Deduce. So this is a 2 mana instant, draw a card, investigate. So effectively, this is 4 mana, draw 2 cards, but it's an instant speed and it's split into 2 halves. So you can kind of get that Think Twice experience for a little bit less than Think Twice was back in the day. This also helps us hold up counter magic that we have to spend mana on, like Counterspell and Consign to Memory. And then we have the really interesting section of this deck, which is this little pile here. I guess the Merchant Scroll is pretty interesting too. So we have a Brainsurge, which is just a nice piece of card advantage that can reset the top of our deck and do all sorts of stuff. We have Witness the Future. This is one where we get to shuffle cards in and then get a little impulse. So this is to give us the inevitability. So when we get to towards the end of our deck, we can shuffle back the things we need to assemble the Thwart lock and just keep the game locked down. We have a Piracy Charm. So this is, we're probably not going to give any creatures Iron Walk, but this is a +2/-1, which can kill things like Orcish Bowmaster specifically, which I imagine this is the reason it's in there. And you can also make a player discard a card, which can be relevant for certain situations as well. Like when somebody's trying to do storm stuff, they put a Dark Ritual on the stack ready to cast their last card in hand, which is like a Beseech, and then you just take that out of their hand. It's an interesting piece of tech. You used to see this out of Infect decks a long time ago as a way of beating Peacekeeper. And we have Depose, Deploy. So this is 2 mana, tap target creature, draw a card. So basically like Ice from Fire and Ice. But then we can also spend 4 mana and get 2 1/1 color Thopter artifact creature tokens flying, and we gain 1 life for each creature we control. So not going to be gaining much life from this one, but you never know. And then we have a Magma Opus. So this is a cool card. So we can discard it from our hand for 2 mana to make a treasure token. Or we can cast it for the full whack and we get 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. Tap 2 target permanents, create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token and draw 2 cards. So it's kind of like an Is It Cruel ultimatum in some ways. So are we going to be casting this that often? Probably not. But we can be using this to get some treasure. It's a thing that we can do in our end step, so we can kind of like ramp a little bit in the end step. I can't necessarily claim to understand the choice of all the cards in here, because obviously Phil has been cooking this one, and he really goes into the source and finds specific tools to answer specific problems. And we're kind of going to wing it and see if we can learn what those problems are and what these particular answers are and how they line up as we go. So there's some pretty exciting ones in here, and I'm looking forward to trying it out. We've got 3 islands and 1 plains as our basics, and the rest is all fetches, jewels, and that sort of jam. And obviously the Mystic Sanctuary, which is the core part of the deck. Sideboard-wise, we've got some Wastelands. I like Wastelands in the sideboard of control decks. I think it's an interesting lever to pull. Like, yeah, you can sometimes cheese games, but when we're playing a slow deck like this, we're never really going to cheese a game with a Wasteland. But there are some things that we definitely want to hit with a Wasteland, things like Urza's Saga. So we're not trying to cheese people like you can do with tempo decks. We're trying to have this as a specific answer to specific problems. We have a Void Mirror, which is a card that I enjoy quite a lot. So this is 2 mana. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no coloured mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. This is a big middle finger towards the old Eldrazi's, that's for sure. Pretty good against a bunch of Storm decks as well, where they're trying to play a bunch of zeros. I like this card and think it should see probably a little more play than it does. We've got Pyroblast to go with our Volcanic Island in the main deck. We've got Hydroblasts, got Consigns, Force of Negation, Mindbreak Trap, just a selection of different tools, slightly heavier towards the combo with things like Mindbreak Trap and Force here. We've got Hurkyl's Recall and a Monastery Mentor for when we need to actually finish the game off here. So yeah, that's the list. I'm really curious to see how this one plays out compared to yesterday. No doubt today we're going to get paired into just fair decks, but I think this deck should be pretty good against fair decks anyway, because the core of like all the cantrips, the counters, the removal, and then drawing cards is good. We don't have a counterbalance engine like we did in the previous build from yesterday, and I hope you're ready for some more blue-white control, because that's what you're getting today. Alright, please remember to like and subscribe, and let's start jamming to blue-white control, and let's see if it is really the Magma Opus of blue-white control. We're on the play for round 1. We certainly have our mana sorted here, but we don't really have any interaction going on. This is basically like a 5-lander. I don't think we can keep this. Okay, we're asking a little bit from our Brainstorms here. There's 2 different ways we can play this one out. So we'll keep this. I will keep a ForceOfPhil. Obviously going to keep a Brainstorm. Going to keep the Prismatic Ending and the Flooded Strand. So it's one of these 3 cards that goes. Probably the Brainsurge or the Sanctuary. If we get rid of the Sanctuary, we are kind of risking it a little bit. So I think we're going to get rid of the Brainsurge, and we're going to start off on a Sanctuary. Not exactly a display of power here. If they Wasteland us, it's not the end of the world, but it is annoying. Okay, a Swamp. And no play from our opponent. You have to be wary of something like an Entomb here. Okay, another land. Excellent. So we'll play out this fetch land. And we can Brainstorm now, or we can wait. We don't necessarily have a need to Brainstorm, although if our opponent's black, they might be a Orcish Bowmaster deck. They might also be a Dark Ritual deck, so we can wait till they do something with their mana. They did nothing with their mana. Black and green mana. Let's see what we're up against. I'm almost certainly going to Brainstorm in response to whatever this is. Collective Brutality. Discard a card for the escalate on this. They've discarded a Grizzlebrand, so reveal our hand, choose an instant or sorcery card from that player discards. So I'm going to Brainstorm and protect this ForceOfPhil. This is a little bit awkward because we don't have another blue card here. But what they can do is they can take the Deduce, and then we're kind of in a bit of trouble. Right, we'll pop some lands on top, I guess. We don't really need those. And we're going to let them take the ForceOfPhil because they're going to take the blue card anyway. So there goes the ForceOfPhil. If we put that on top, maybe our opponent doesn't take the Deduce, but they should do, right? This way we at least have the opportunity to try and draw out of the situation we're in. We don't have any Surveil lands, that's not how this deck is constructed. Our tap lands are the Mystic Sanctuaries. Okay, we're in a bit of a tough spot here. So if let's hypothetically say we left the ForceOfPhil on top. They take the Deduce, we draw a ForceOfPhil, we don't get to cast a ForceOfPhil. And then our opponent just has a free shot. This way we at least have a draw into something else. We're looking at a Reanimate. Deduce an answer to this one. A Merchant Scroll. That's not going to get us where we need to go, is it? We also don't have a Plow that can nail this yet. Our opponent's drawn 7 cards. Probably going to be pretty good, but we can sort of work our way through a lot of stuff. I suspect we've lost this one by not finding the blue card. Now, I could have insulted my opponent's intelligence and just kept the blue card in hand, but they're not going to take Prismatic Endings in that situation. They can't take the land, so the only thing they could take really would be the Deduce. We're just getting unmasked. Alright, I think we could probably just scoop this one up. The Grizzlebrand's probably going to get it done, isn't it? I don't want them to see that we're playing a bunch of, like, Merchant Scrolls. So, how do we beat this? We don't actually have much graveyard removal, graveyard hate to really leverage here. So very much on the, we need to counterspell their spells. So I'll take a Force of Negation here. They showed us green-black, which suggests to me they might be running a pivot plan into Witherbloom Apprentice combo. That's quite a popular thing. I don't think we want Wastelands. The Void Mirror can stop like an unmask, but I don't think that's worth it here. Does this counter Chain of Smog? Chain of Smog, you copy the spell rather than casting it, don't you? So that probably won't work. Consign Memory can stop things like Atraxa. Mindbreak Trap can do a little bit of work here, but it's not great. So I think we're probably trimming at least one Prismatic Ending here. Just keeping a nice density of blue cards makes sense. We want removal. We don't know what the pivot plan is. If it is with the Witherbloom Apprentice, we probably do want to keep in some Prismatic Endings, but maybe just 2. And then we get another Counterspell. I think, on average, Consign is probably going to do a little bit more than Mindbreak Trap, but it's pretty marginal either way. Should be noted that Void Mirror stops our Force of Wills and stuff. So this is obviously a haymaker we have to be pretty careful about when we bring in. We'll try a Consign to stop like an Atraxa trigger. I think that's okay. I don't think we want another Consign though. The Witness of the Future is Graveyard Hate, effectively. Okay, we need to try and work our way through a bunch of their discard. No counter magic. I don't think we can keep this. This one does not look good to me either. We don't get to do anything on turn 1. That leaves us very exposed. Our Mystic Sanctuary isn't getting blown up though, so we do get to have a ponder and dig for something. But I think we can do better than this. Okay, I think that's better. Let's get rid of these two. Just keep a glut of blue cards and Force of Wills. We don't have any Surveil lands, so we're not going to play out the Flooded Strand. We're just going to drop a Tundra and pass. But in Catacombs, they're not going on turn 1 here. So we can Merchant Scroll for some help here. But we have Force of Will blue card, Force of Will blue card. So I'm just going to sit on this and then try and fire up a Deduce in our opponent's end step and work our way towards another blue card while making land drops. They left a card on top of their library, so it's most likely going to be either a part of their combo or a piece of disruption. I guess it could be a land as well, depending on the situation they're in. A Thwart Seas. Alright, opponent, you can see that I'm still going to have Force of Will available here. They could just take the Deduce, so we don't have any play this turn. But that does leave us with double force if we draw any blue card. Now it's even freer to fire off this Deduce because we don't need another blue card. I'm going to get the Volcanic Island, I think, here. That way, when we are ready for the Magma Opus, it'll be ready. Okay, we have a Brainstorm. It's not a bad one to have access to. So we can Brainstorm, we can shuffle away with Merchant Scroll. But our hand is kind of where we want it to be. Making our opponent discard a card doesn't feel the best here. I guess we just hold for a turn here. They know they have to beat a Force of Will. We can Merchant Scroll up another Force of Will. We're looking at here a Fair Creature, perhaps. Alright, Collective Brutality. Okay, let's... So the discarding card has a cost. There's no way we can stop them having this Atraxa. So we're going to Brainstorm, see if we can move things around enough to make a difference here. The answer to that is probably a big fat no, isn't it? We don't want Piracy Charm. That card is bad. Like, it's a free blue card to pitch, but we just don't have to have it in our hand at all. We can put back this Flooded Strand and then just go and get a land with Lorien Revealed and try and Brainstorm our way to victory. Alright, Collective Brutality is particularly annoying for us because it's not only a way of poking a hole in our hand, it's also an enabler for them. Feels like we're just getting absolutely rocked here. So I'm going to take the Force of Will. We have a Brainstorm though, so they may think that we have something on top that we can Brainstorm into. So we have a little bit of a bluff going. Right, there goes the Force. I imagine they just send it. They've got 4 cards in hand. The deck is dedicated to doing this one thing, so they're probably going to be able to send it multiple times. That, unfortunately, is a Reanimate. Let's see what they find here. How much of our hand is getting stripped? Yep, so they do have the Witherbloom Apprentice combo. It's quite rare to see a selection where there's only one duplicate here. They can't take 2 Shadow Graves, so we can cross one of those off. Now we've got a turn to make something work here. We're almost in a spot where a Cryptic Command would be good. So what they chose, Shallow Grave, Thoughtseize, Animate, Dead, Archon of Cruelty, Marshflats. So there's no Dark Ritual, no Witherbloom Apprentice, no Chain of Smock, no Reanimate. Okay, not the easiest thing to beat. So we're going to shuffle with this Lorien Revealed. Get ourselves a Tundra, a Ponder and a Brainstorm, I guess. So this only finds blue instants, so we can't just find a piece of removal and snap this off. So we probably need to Brainstorm first. Okay, so we found the Plow. We can put back a couple of lands here. I guess we want to go and get a Tundra here and Ponder first. And then we can snap a Plow off here. Consign to Memory, Mystic Sanctuary. Like, these things kind of work for next turn. So we could put a Ponder in our hand, then play the Mystic Sanctuary, get back the thing. But we're going to lose a card from our hand. I guess we can lose the Merchant Scroll, and then we can get back wherever we need. So if we put... They can't take the Mystic Sanctuary from our... We're going to lose 2 cards if they Shallow Grave in this Archon of Cruelty, though. Because they're going to Thoughtseize themselves and Shallow Grave it in. Is that worse for us than just taking 7 off the Atraxa? Might be. Though we won't have to answer it. So it's what, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage. We lose 2 cards. So we could pop this Ponder on top and be able to try and dig our way out of whatever we need. Or we could just shuffle this. I think we're just going to have this Ponder and put that one down and then the Mystic Sanctuary on top. I think we're probably ploughing this Atraxa and taking the hit from the Archon of Cruelty and see if we can stabilize afterwards. They can animate Ed, so they're going to Thoughtseize, targeting us, so we have to plow here. And now we're going to lose our other 2 cards, and then we have a Ponder to dig ourselves out. Now Ponder's only seeing 2 fresh cards on the first look, but that's still fine. So we lose the Merchant Scroll, which is anything they can take, but we can put the Mystic Sanctuary into play, Well, no, we can't because we're going to get hit by the Arcanum. But yeah, having the Ponder is better than having a Mystic Sanctuary next. Right, it's our Ritual. A Withered Moon. Oh, they're just going to smog us this turn as well. Yeah, no, that'll do. If you're unfamiliar with this combo, this is whenever you cast or copy a spell, you drain life for 1. And Chain of Smog, they target themselves, and then they can copy it as many times as they like. So that is the game. That felt horrible. Collective Brutality was very, very, very good against us. Okay, well that is the end of round 1. Let's go to round 2. Okay, a bit awkward. We're going to have to play on non-basics, but that's the game we signed up for, I think. We have a nice little bit of interaction, and we have another bit of interaction here, so I think this is a keep. We'll probably lead off on the Volcanic. Might make it more difficult to have any sort of Magma Opus later on. I guess we could play the Flooded Strand and just not crack it. Is also fine, since we didn't really need to cast anything on turn 1. Makes a little bit more sense, which means we get to go to our second turn to Brainstorm and then fetch. Because we don't really want this Witness the Future in our hand if we can help it. A Tamiyo, Inquisitive Student. Okay, we can just snap that off. So if we want to plow this, we kind of need to do it around a daze, which means we can't really Brainstorm and do it, which is awkward. So I think we're just going to go and get... I think it should be the Tundra. We just remove this now, otherwise it's going to accrue too much card advantage for us to deal with. If they force, then we probably force back you pitching this. Okay. If they have double force, then that's obviously annoying, but it is what it is. We should be able to find a piece of removal for this. If they've got double force, maybe they're going to pitch something like a Brainstorm or a Cantrip, which makes it harder for them to flip the Tamiyo, which is what we're worried about. Now, we do have things like Prismatic Ending that we can use to a flip Tamiyo, but just a clean answer straight away for our opponent's turn 1 engine makes sense to me. Wasteland. What are they going to take? Probably white because it's our removal colour. That's what I would take. We have to watch out for Bowmasters here. Our opponent could have a daze. Right, so they are hitting our Tundra. Okay. I don't think we're brainstorming now. I want to brainstorm our turn so we can see more cards. Alright, let's fire off. Let's play our fetch now as well. Let's fire off this Brainstorm. Now we know there's no Bowmasters over there. Thwart is a little bit out of the way of what we're trying to do right now, isn't it? These Merchant Scrolls seem quite slow to me on first impressions. Flooded Strand. A Tamiyo. Yep, we're not answering that one. Shuffle, go get ourselves a Tundra. So we want to have islands so that our Thwart works as well as our Mystic Sanctuary later on down the stretch. Okay, so we have the Prismatic Ending here if we want it. Okay, I'm going to cast a Merchant Scroll and see what happens. Do I get to resolve this? Okay, we do. What are we supposed to get here? We can consign to memory the trigger. That's not the worst thing, is it? We can thwart something, but that's obviously going to be quite the cost. Bit of a tricky on this. We could just get a ForceOfPhil, but then we have to lose our Thwart to do that, which is kind of like our late game engine, which might be really useful in this matchup. We could just get a Counterspell. It's not live this turn, but it means for following turns it's pretty good. Or we could just get the Consign. We could get a card advantage spell, something like a Brainsurge, but then that becomes very poor if our opponent just drops a Bowmasters on us. Alright, I'm going to get a Counterspell. I'm not going to pending this while our opponent can just crack this and Brainstorm. We wait for them to flip it, and then they can't protect it. But if they just use this to draw cards every turn, then we're kind of in an awkward position. We might find ourselves having to try and counterspell a Brainstorm at some point. They're doing something here, so they might be putting a Kaito in, which will beat us pretty easily. Yep, that's Kaito. I don't think we beat this Kaito. We can't Prismatic Ending in because its mana value is 4. We need to get the Waterlogged Teachings into play first and not get Wastelanded. Untap, resolve a 4-mana spell against it, and by that time this thing's probably going to have killed us. So that's the risk of not Prismatic Ending the Tamiyo there, that they get the Kaito in. Wow. They're milling over Bowmasters against us. That's terrifying. We have a Plow. It's no good. We're just going to die to this Kaito now, as has happened many, many times when I've been trying to play control decks. This Kaito card is the real deal. Easily the best Planeswalker in Legacy, in my opinion. Just absolutely changes the dynamic of the game, and it's good as an aggressive or a defensive piece. Tamiyo. Yep, we knew they had that in hand because they bounced it with the Kaito earlier. Also, you can't counterspell Kaito, which is a real pain. You can stifle Kaito, though. So we could plow this now and just be relatively mana efficient. I don't hate that. Another Goyf. Okay, well, we can get rid of that. We don't need to use our counterspell on that. But we do need to find a way to beat this Kaito, and that is not going to be easy. Cryptic Command. That might get us there at some point. We can bounce the Kaito and maybe counter it on the way back down if they don't have a creature. But we're going to take 3 and they're going to draw an extra card this turn. Just the best Shadow Mage Infiltrator I've ever seen. That's what it feels like. Actually, that's not true. That would be Psychic Frog. The second best Shadow Mage Infiltrator. Brainstorm, sure. Do I care about this? We don't have an answer locked and loaded right now. I'm more scared of what this 2 mana represents in Murktide Regent. A Wasteland. I'm going to Wasteland us now. They are. A Mystic Sanctuary that's going to come in tapped. I think we probably need that so that we have Command as an out. So this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage at present. We could rip a Terminus, but then we're still dead to the Kaito. It is Cryptic Command that works here, right? It's still not going to work though, isn't it? No, I guess we tap their creatures. As awkward as that is. Yeah, we just let them have the spell bomb. What we're trying to do here is stop pressure with this. Okay, so they're going to crack for 8 now because they've grown the Nethergoyf because of the Null spell bomb. Yeah, so this is the sort of matchup they're supposed to be good into, and that felt horrible. Okay, Pyroblast. I would like to have you, please. The rest of our tools don't feel amazing. What are we doing with our tools here? Piracy Charm. This kills an Orcish Bowmaster, so we need to keep that in. Makes sense. It consigns to memory. What is that doing here? Not great amounts of anything. So we can counter something like a Tamiyo trigger, but you can't consign to memory a Kaito because it's an activated ability. So I guess we're just looking at swapping these out, and that's probably it. We could board in Wastelands to have additional mana, just as mana, but I don't think that's where I want to be. This is unkeepable for obvious reasons. Okay, what are we throwing back here? Do we want to have a Lorien Revealed over a fetch land? It is a blue card, so it's probably slightly better. We get to start off with an island. We can go and get a plains here. This is going to slow down our Mystic Sanctuary lines though, but it's going to stop us getting wastelanded. Thwart Seas. I honestly don't care that much about what they take. They took one of our Brainstorms. We got more where that one came from. Let's cast a Brainstorm. I think we're probably putting back an ending, and so the Teachings is a land, but it's not an island, which is something we kind of want it to be. This can tutor for removal spells, but it's expensive. So I think we're going to send this back, and then we have the intention of cycling the Lorien Revealed. Okay, let's get ourselves this plains. I'm going to cycle this so we can secure our next land drop because they can't Thoughtseize that away from us. Probably just a Tundra here. We'll worry about red mana when we get to that point. Null spell bomb, sure. Mystic Sanctuary is the only thing we have that cares about that, but obviously that's a fundamental part of what our deck's trying to do. There's Merchant Scroll. Kind of in a weird position here because what are we doing with this Merchant Scroll? I'm finding it hard to decide what the correct thing to find at any given moment is. Like, it could just be Counterspell. We've got a removal spell. Or we could get something that draws us cards. So have something like a Deduce, so that we're slowly accruing advantage that way. I think I'm just going to have a Counterspell. Just sit on that for next turn. Mystic Sanctuary is very unlikely to do anything with this Null Spellbomb face up. But we can force a cracking of it, perhaps. It's a Tamiyo. We have a clean answer to this. However, our opponent has 3 cards in hand. So this is a situation where we probably have to play the Mystic Sanctuary. Oh, this is tapped, isn't it? Because of our plains. Okay, so we have to shoot this now so we don't get hit by a Kaito. And then we have to counterspell a Brainstorm, perhaps. I would have liked to have been able to play around the days here. Alright, it's just gone. Are we worried about Orcish Bowmasters? Yes. I don't want to ponder into it. Alright, they're just cracking this now. That's okay for us. A Brainstorm, sure. A Nethergoyf. We can try and ponder into an answer to this one. We've got some life to work with. I'd rather just exile this and counter it and have to deal with it later on. Alright, let's go for a ponder here. We can counterspell our Bowmasters. Right, so there is the plow, so perfectly rewarded for that. I think we'll keep the Brainstorm on top. Snap this off, get rid of it. Hang back with our counterspell. We need to make sure they don't have anything that lets them put a Kaito in. Because the Kaito being uncounterable when they ninjutsu it in is a real problem. Brainstorm is good. No follow-up though. They do have a fetch land. So they're not locked under whatever they've done with this Brainstorm. Okay. They would like to get rid of our Swords to Plowshares. Interesting. How much do I care about this? Like, it is pretty annoying, because that's the way we're trying to deal with all their creatures. But I don't think we can afford to spend a card on something that isn't a card. They do get to see our deck, they are shuffling for us. We left on top with a ponder. So the Lorien Revealed that was on top is now gone. We've taken the Brainstorm. Interesting choice to bring in the Surge Extraction. Let's ponder. They know what our hand is as well here. In case of Bowmaster, we can then go over the top. Pyroblast is a useful card in the future. But do I want to draw through all this? I do quite like the Prismatic Ending against most of their threats as well. So I guess we probably go Pyroblast on the bottom, then the Ending, then the Island. And we can use this Island later as a thing that we put back with a Brainstorm. But then our removal spell isn't going to be Thwart Seized. A Wasteland, sure. We get Wastelanded here. Alright, I'm going to cast a Brainstorm with this mana. It's not ideal. Okay, so here's the Bowmaster. We have the Counterspell for this. And we can play around the days. They have a Force of Will. Okay. So the Bowmaster's going to hit us, and then we're going to exile the Bowmaster. Do we have to exile the token? Yikes, maybe we do. Witness the Future. That is a shuffle effect. Let's get the Witness the Future back. So we can get rid of the Bowmasters here. Or we can get rid of the thing that's actually beating us right now on board. I don't like it, but I think we're going to get rid of this Orc Army token. So they have a 1/1. This doesn't draw you a card. It impulses and looks at the top cards. So we can put like a removal spell and a counter spell into our deck. I will take a hit from the Bowmasters. If this is all they're doing for a few turns, that's okay. Okay, they have a Wasteland. They're taking out Mystic Sanctuary. That is part of our island count. Sure. That's another thing that we can chuck back in our deck in a minute. Okay, so I'd like to Witness the Future. Target us. The Prismatic Ending, the Mystic Sanctuary, the Counterspell, and the Ponder, I think. It's up to 4. It doesn't have to be all 4, but I think I'm going to put the Ponder in. And then we get one of these cards. So Merchant Scroll can find us the Piracy Charm next turn, which answers the Orcish Bowmasters. Look at that. The tech's coming together. Just take our little 1 damage here. We need our opponent to not just like drop something big that we can't deal with immediately. Okay, let's Merchant Scroll. Just go and get that Piracy Charm coming in clutch here. If our opponent wants to spend mana, we want them to spend it on their turn, so we're going to do it in their upkeep. +2/-1 on this. Get out of here, Bowmasters. If we can find a Volcanic, we can Pyroblast away a Murktide. If they play a Kaito here, that's obviously going to require us to have an answer for it very, very sharpish. Yeah, that's a Kaito. Alright. Come on, red source. Ah, a Force of Will. Nice of you to show up. We're probably just going to lose to the Kaito, which has been my experience playing decks where I didn't have a Kaito and we're trying to make the game go long. Yep, so this is going to be them hitting us for 4. They get to draw a card. The reason we don't play out the Sanctuary there is because it doesn't get us anything back. Otherwise we could, if we wait for another island, then we can put back like a good dig spell. We need to find a Terminus. No, we don't need to find that. Alright, so they should attack for 4, draw a card. Next turn, they attack for 5, kill us. So we have 1 turn to find the red source for our Pyroblast. And we get 1 shot at our Pyroblast. And they might have a Force of Will because they have 5 mana up and they're not tapping out for anything at the moment. They don't really need to, I suppose. Just milling over lands and removal spells. Makes sense? Deduce. Well, this can do it. We need to hold up the blue for more cantrips, I think. Let's Deduce. Alright, Orcish Bowmasters. Don't care enough about you right now. You are not the scariest thing here. A second Bowmasters? What about second Bowmasters? So we are dead pretty much whatever we do here. Yeah. Absolutely taken apart there. The Kaito, just too good. Black cards, pretty darn strong as it turns out. Yeah, not feeling great about this. I think we're a little bit lost in the sauce with some Merchant Scroll action being quite slow here. Alright, let's go to round 3 and see how we do. Okay, what does this hand do? We have a little bit of potentially good interaction. We have a piece of, again, potentially good interaction. We don't have our ability to cantrip until we get to turn 3. We can play on basics if we need to, which is nice. This is kind of a 4-lander though. I guess this is probably going to be a spell most of the time. I think I'm okay to keep this one. I'm not excited about it. Ooh, a Polluted Delta. Okay. A Brainstorm. Okay, things just got a lot better for us. That's nice. Are we going to see an Entomb at end step? Could be. We probably have to react to that one. Yep. Okay. Basic Island it is. Brainstorm it is. Okay. they just get to free roll at us here. What do we put back? I guess Thwart is going to be a little bit... So we'll keep the ending just in case they animate dead. And then we can at least get rid of the animate dead. But I guess Lorien Revealed goes, and we can put back a land, because we're going to be drawing that next turn anyway. I should probably put back this Consign to memory. Because I don't think we're going to have much in the way of good targets for it. Okay, so we're probably dead here. Tractor. So our opponent gets to draw 3 to 5 cards here. And make a massive creature that we don't have an immediate answer for. Ooh, a Ponder. Maybe they don't have it. That's kind of a bit sketchy against the blue fetch to just entomb if you're not ready to go straight away. Now, maybe they are ready to go. They're just seeing if they can get a piece of protection to go with it. But leaving like a card in your graveyard that someone else can reanimate is pretty scary. A Thwart Seize. So we're going to lose our Brainstorm here. But we're not getting hit by a big monster immediately. We kind of had to scupper our game plan a bit of just brainstorming straight away to try and find an answer to the Entomb, because that's kind of how this warps every game it's in. It's like, okay, you have to interact with the Entomb immediately or you're probably going to have trouble. Merchant Scroll. That is interesting. I guess if there's a weird card you don't understand why it's there, take it isn't the worst. Alright, Brainstorm. Let's see what we can do. It's a lot of land, isn't it? I guess we're going to put these 2 back. And then we're going to deploy this Flooded Strand. And we have a Consign to memory, so maybe we can stop and animate dead. And then from next turn onwards we have Thwart, but that's going to be very, very dangerous into a potential daze on the other side. I suspect our opponent does have it here. They were just slow rolling it a bit so they could get a nice Thoughtseize in. They weren't under any pressure, so they could sculpt a little bit, see what we're up to, work out what the best way forward is. They chose not to shuffle from the Ponder. Undercity Sewers. Okay. Well, they already chose the best monster in the Atraxa. Okay, so here comes the Reanimate. It is a Reanimate, so we don't really get to interact with this one. Okay, so you're saying we're going to have a bad time. That's what I'm hearing. We could consign this trigger. Maybe we should have consigned the trigger, actually. Why didn't we consign the trigger? Right, so I got 4 cards out of that. I could have paid 1 mana to stop our opponent having 4 cards. That was just really loose of me. Right, I think we get a Tundra here. Let's keep our island count high. Mystic Sanctuary. We're just going to fire this off now, I think. Get this Brainsurge down. They had a daze as well. So the Consign wouldn't have worked anyway. Good to know. Alright, I don't want to play this game anymore. Yeah, we did make an objective mistake by not consigning to memory. Even though it wouldn't have worked because of the daze, it was still wrong not to attempt it. Yeah. Like, we could have thwarted to get our Brainsurge through, but then what are we doing, right? We don't have any Graveyard Hate, which seems like a massive error in this particular list. I guess we have a Force of Negation because we just need to have it. I don't think we want a Pyroblast. Merchant Scroll seems a bit slow here. Prismatic Ending is good against their Fair Plan if they board it in. It also can hit and animate dead, so it's not terrible. This is a blue card. It's very slow. I guess if we just need counterspells, we can just keep finding counterspells with it. Maybe we just don't want to tap a creature. That's not very exciting here. Jeez. This isn't going to work, is it? We need to have some sort of interaction on some level. Okay, Island Ponder. I'll keep this. Thwart can go back. We don't really have 3 islands anytime now. Force of Negation is nice, but if they entomb an our turn and have multiple ways of getting through that, then that's obviously a problem. Okay, a Force of Will is nice. I don't like the Mystic Sanctuary very much, though. And the Prismatic Ending is pretty bad. So I could take the Force, but then we got to draw through 2 bad cards. I don't think we can keep this because of the 2 bad cards. Or, yeah. Let's just shuffle and have a fresh... Okay, Mystic Sanctuary came back. Our opponent might just Wasteland and reset the game. No. A Thoughtseize. Okay, I guess we let them take our Force of Negation. If we can find an untapped blue source, we can go and find a Force of Will, though. They took the Merchant Scroll. So this means they know they can, like, entomb on our turn and be somewhat safe. A Lorien Revealed. I don't hate having this. Let's go and fetch. It has to be a Tundra, given the situation we're currently in. Let's just deploy it. So they know what we drew, so they still have perfect information. We can Piracy Charm and put a big monster from their hand into the graveyard. That doesn't feel great. Brainstorm, I don't believe we're hitting this with a Force of Negation. I think we need to hit either something that's reanimating something or something that's putting it into the graveyard. Now, most of their things that put stuff into the graveyard are instant speed, and the stuff that brings it back is sorcery speed. So we're more likely to hit the thing that brings it back, which isn't ideal, because it's usually harder to get stuff in the graveyard than it is to find ways of reanimating. And they could set up a line involving the Metamorphosis Fanatic as well. which we just can't interact with. I guess we can consign to memory, actually. A Mystic Sanctuary. I guess I'll put one in play now, so next turn we can get some stuff back. So our opponent doesn't know one of the cards in our hand. We're going to see an Entomb here that we can't interact with. I'm really confused why they didn't do this in our upkeep, because if we'd have played an untapped land here, our opponent could have just walked right into our hard cast Force of Negation. What do they put in there? What is this? Oh, I don't like the look of this. Archon of Cruelty. That is a pretty weird piece of art on that one. I like the art, but I just don't particularly like frames like that because I'm an old boomer who likes old bordered cards. Not these newfangled things. Okay, so let's try and answer this. They're going to have an answer, and then we're going to have a bad time. We can consign to memory the trigger. Is it even worth consigning to memory the trigger? So we can pay 1 mana to gain some life. I guess that's okay. Oh, so we're going to gain 3 life by doing this, effectively. And our opponent's not going to draw a card. Like, it's not ideal. Not by any stretch of the imagination. But it's what we have. I think we're drawing a random card this turn. Is it going to be a Source of Plowshares? Oh, it's a Terminus. It's close enough. Oh, we'll take that one. Alright, maybe we're gaming again. Okay, what would I like to put on top of my library? I don't know is the answer to that one. We could put the Terminus and just have like a free roll for a turn. Or we could put something like a Merchant Scroll, and then we know we can just go get Counterspell and sit behind it. That's probably reasonable. Should we go and get Merchant Scroll? So we could have held on to the Mystic Sanctuary, but if our opponent has another way of making us discard any cards, so like another Archon in their deck, then we're in trouble. I suspect they don't have another Archon, but you never know. So next turn we can tutor for actual factual Counterspell and sit behind Counterspell for a turn cycle or 2. So our opponent's got a reasonable amount of air in their deck at the moment, so we can hopefully dodge all that. Let's get this Merchant Scroll going. We're leaving the Mystic Sanctuaries untapped because I'd rather they waste these than our other bits and pieces. Right, let's get a Counterspell and let's just sit on this. So our opponent's next thing we have covered, provided they don't have backup for it. They're also only on 8. A Brazen Borrower, just being flashed in. I think I'm okay to Counterspell this. You got Daze? No. Okay. So they're probably going for a Undercity Sewers, have a little surveil action, try and find another answer to whatever. So they're playing things like Thoughtseize. If we don't use our Counterspell then, we might not have it. And that would be very unfortunate for us. So just having a nice clean 1-for-1 trade there. If nobody's doing anything, we have more card advantage on our deck, so in theory we can pull out, but our opponent has way more powerful stuff in their deck than we do. Like this nonsense. Alright, they entombed, but they didn't do anything with it. That's an interesting choice. Brainsurge. Oh, I like a Brainsurge. Because we have things like Ponder, I'm going to just cast this now. It's annoying because I would like to have more cards, but this does put 2 cards in our hand. Okay, so we have a Thwart and a Plow. I feel a bit safer now. We're getting there. We're assembling the lock here, so we can pick up our Mystic Sanctuaries. Brainstorm, that's not what we're fighting over. They put a regular creature into play, we plow it. They try and put a giant monster into play, we thwart it. But they have to put it in with something like an Animate Dead here. Sure, you can ponder. A Murktide Regent. They have no cards on hand, so this is an easy plow for us. This does give them enough life to reanimate something though. But we have an answer for that. Let's plow this. Get out of here, Murktide. Then we're going to be drawing another plow. So we have hardcast Thwart, or we can bounce our Mystic Sanctuaries and work towards getting on any of these lovely spells back. So I think we're in a good spot here. Our opponent can have running draws that ruin our day. Okay, just draw this Prismatic Ending and pass. We're drawing fresh cards from next turn. Wouldn't mind having just like a Deduce or something. Get some cards going. Something happening in our upkeep, perhaps? This gives us access to a Mystic Sanctuary for Lorien Revealed, which I'm very interested in having. So we're certainly getting close to that corner turning that we want. Bowmasters would be annoying in response to our Lorien Revealed, I won't lie. But we do have a Thwart that can try and protect it. Mystic Sanctuary, where is this Lorien Revealed? Put that right in my... Or, well, on top of my library. It'll be in my hand soon. Alright. A paying cost for something. A Surgical Extraction. Do I care enough about them surgically extracting this Lorien Revealed? No? If they want to spend a card for this, fine. They can see that we've got a bunch of counter magic. The fact that we're not countering this probably tells them they should be a little bit worried. We're definitely picking up Mystic Sanctuaries when the time comes. What I'd like to deduce now, because we have a bunch of stuff like Ponders and things, I would like to deduce now. Okay, I will also crack this clue token. A Force of Will. I don't really want to fire this off when we have a Thwart in hand, because I'd just rather pick up these Mystic Sanctuaries and get that going. Seems like this should be a difficult one for our opponent to win. And we are actually ahead on clock, which is nice. Which is something I struggled with a bit the first time I played this blue-white control deck. Or an earlier or different build of it. A Brainstorm. Okay. Happy to move some cards around here. Magma Opus. Okay, I'm certainly interested in that later on. Let's put that on top for now. That is our win condition. We just need 8 mana. A Wasteland. Okay, so there goes our... Oh, they're going to go for that one, aren't they? Just Deduce. Like, our opponent isn't going to be able to make inroads into this game. But we do need to actually win the game ourselves at some point. Let's just keep drawing cards. Cast a Brainstorm. We can put back the Magma Opus because we're not ready for that yet. And then we can put back an Ending. And cast a Merchant Scroll here. A ForceOfPhil. A hard cast ForceOfPhil. I'm okay to ForceOfPhil this. We need to kind of get some cards out of our hand before we thwart and pick up, because we want to keep all these going. Okay, so what do we want with this? We could go and get this Deduce and just draw 2 cards with it. It's not very exciting, but I think that's probably the correct play. Not the most exciting Merchant Scroll I've ever seen. The quality of Merchant Scroll as a tutor versus Entomb is wild to me. Okay, let's go and get ourselves... Probably just get a basic Plains here. We already have enough islands. We don't want to get wasted off of access to Source of Plowshares and then just lose that way. A Merchant Scroll. Deduce. Draw some more cards. Play a land. Merchant Scroll here. Don't have any more Deduce going on, do we? Let's get a Cryptic Command for later. Who doesn't love a Cryptic Command? We've got Counter Magic. We've got a couple of card draws saved up. Let's pop our graveyard out. It's kind of an important zone. A Wasteland. Alright, they're going to start in our red source. This means we have to then cycle our red source back through the deck. Let's draw a card here. If our opponent puts Bowmaster on the stack, we can bounce our Volcanic Island. So we need to find the thing that shuffles the other things in. Have we already gone through that? We haven't, I don't think. Alright, it's going to be a long haul to get there. But we knew that going in with this deck. We want to have lots of mana, so we're just going to keep deploying these. We've got good old-fashioned Cryptic Command. Just draw a card here. Another land. That'll be useful once we shuffle this in. Alright, we just sit on what we're doing until we find a Merchant Scroll or the thing that shuffles stuff in. And we can work towards our Magma Opus. So we have another Mystic Sanctuary we go and grab here. This can go and put our Merchant Scroll on top. Which lets us shuffle in some things. No, wait, this doesn't shoot it for that, does it? That's only a sorcery. So we have to just naturally draw that, don't we? I see, I see. Okay. We can get the Magma Opus here if we want to. We can... There's some really annoying lines that we can do here where we bounce our own Mystic Sanctuary to get back something. I wonder if there's an instant speed version of that card we're using to shuffle stuff back in. A Brazen Borrower. You can have a Brazen Borrower, and I will plow it. An Orcish Bowmasters, you say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we'll have to discard a card if we do this. If we fight over this, we have the ForceOfPhil. We did not fight over it. What are we binning off here? Hard to say. Maybe it's a plow. We can just go and get it back anyway. We don't have Cryptic Command right now, but we do have ForceOfPhil pitching blue card. And we have many rebuys of all the things we want. Animate Dead on this guy. Let's say no to that. Okay, let's put on top a Brainsurge, please. Like, yes, we could put the Thwart on top and assemble that. But what we can do next turn is we can Brainsurge. So you can play a Mystic Sanctuary, then Brainsurge and put the Thwart into our hand. It does mean we're a little bit shields down this turn. But our opponent tried to send a load of stuff last time. Alright, so they're reanimating this. We'll plow this in response. So this should be both of the big monsters in our opponent's deck gone. They're running a bit low on win conditions over there. Yeah, so I'm not really worried about Entomb anymore. It's probably just going to be for like trolls. Orcish Bowmasters, Swamp, Entomb, Reanimate. Do they have another monster? Oh, we put the Archon on the bottom, didn't we? Yeah, they can just bring back the Archon now. But again, we don't really care about that because we just have an answer to that. A little bit worried about this Orcish Bowmasters. We could have played this game differently. So we draw this Brainsurge. And then we can put this on top. So we can put a plow on top. We're going to Brainsurge. We know they have an Orcish Bowmasters. It's annoying, but we need to get this Archon of Cruelty gone. The clock from the Bowmasters is not as long as the clock from the Archon. Okay, so we have some other answers that we can use here. So we're probably putting the Magma Opus on top, and then the Sanctuary. I assume we have another white source we can fetch. I feel like we do. Let's have a look to see if we have another white source. We do. Okay, that's good. So plow this first, and then we will ending this. And then next turn we can ending the Bowmasters and ponder. Like, there's definitely a whole bunch of different lines we had here. This line is going to put us a little bit lower than I would like, but our opponent doesn't have many threats left in their deck. Oh, is this a Kaito? No. This is just a hardcast troll. Hardcast troll is pretty reasonable here. So the other option, instead of doing the plow, was to put Terminus on top and then Brainsurge in our opponent's turn. But I wanted the ability to be able to Prismatic Ending an Orcish Bowmaster's token. Okay. We're going to need a little bit of help here. A Brainstorm. Get out of there, Bowmasters. Right, let's Brainstorm first, and then we can ponder and shuffle after the Brainstorm. None of these cards do what we need them to. Not a great situation to be in. Put these on top, I guess. Does the card underneath them do anything? It's a Brainstorm, so we can see one more card, or we could see one more card without having to spend a mana. So it's in any order in shuffle, I think. Okay, we just dead to the troll. So that was a perfect and absolute textbook example of having a deck that just doesn't close out the game. Now, we could have used our resources in a different way. I think we probably could have played this game better. But the problem is we don't have the ability to win the game. So it's a bit like Pox, where you get the game under control, and then eventually you might be in trouble. Now, we could have just... we could have started looping things differently than we did. And I think we definitely had the ability to win this game. But we're working very hard for it. All right, having a bad time. Let's go to round 4. Okay, we've got a little bit of card advantage. We do have one of our win conditions. All right, we'll keep this one. Let's put back a Tundra. We can play on basics if we need to. That's not a bad position to be in. Our opponent's mulligan to 5, so they're probably just going to send a combo, and we're not going to have a piece of counter magic, and we're going to die. Tale as old as time. We don't even have a Brainstorm or a Ponder to try and find some on turn 1. We're kind of relying on our turn 2 stuff. Gone are the days you could just be a blue deck and have islands and some source of Plowshares and just be fine. And your opponent would be, oh, I can't do anything about that. I'm going to play the island out so our opponent thinks about our potential to counterspell them. So maybe it slows them down to the point where we actually get to do something into them. Right, they didn't do anything there. That's good news for us. Right, I'm just going to play Plains and pass. Just a couple of delicious basics hanging out. We can start deducing if we need to. Is this going to be an entomb? It is an entomb. Who'd have thought? Okay, let's deduce an answer. We did not deduce an answer. And now that this resolves, our opponent's probably happy to just send it and win. Oh dear. Now, we can answer the thing they put into play, but they're going to draw 14 cards. Do we think we can reliably beat our opponent having triple the number of cards as we started with? Probably not. Maybe they don't send it this turn. Alright, they just animate Deading. Get to draw 14 cards here. Honestly, I don't think we're beating it. I just don't think we're beating them having 14 cards here. Our opponent's deck would have to be so poorly constructed to lose to what we have there. Okay, so let's have a Force of Negation here. That's probably all we're doing. Maybe we'll keep this so we have more win conditions than we had last time, because that kind of came back to bite us, didn't it? Maybe we take out one Prismatic Ending. Like, Consign has a little bit of text to it. Alright, we'll try this. No lands, we're going to mulligan this one. The only land we have is a Mystic Sanctuary. We have no answer to them sending it on turn 2, so let's just mulligan. Okay, we have the ability to interact with them. We can put back a Mystic Sanctuary and... slightly tricky one. Probably the Tundra here, because we want to keep critical mass of blue cards and just rely on finding a land with our cantrips. Like, we do have a second land in Lorien Revealed here. Let's ponder here. Why is it blacked out my Lorien Revealed? That's weird. Okay, so we have a second land. We have a blue card. These two cards are not good, but I do like the island. So I guess we'll put them like this. We'll take the island, and then we can shuffle away the other cards if we want to. We could keep the Cryptic Command as a blue card if we wish. That is something we can work towards as a powerful counterspell. Oh wow, they just raw dog surveilled it in. That is not ideal. I'll describe that as a very poor situation for us to be in. Okay, so draw that as a blue card so that we can pitch this and have the card draw spell. And then we'll island cycle, and we'll go and get a Tundra, but we're going to play our basic island so that we can't be wastelanded off of mana, so we can always pay around days. I am not feeling very happy. Cycle Control of Khazad-dûm, which probably means their hand is just full of cards. They didn't have like another land, so they've just got a whole bunch of action. Oh, a Thwart, you say? Well, that's lovely, isn't it? Okay, so we can deduce here. We probably need to deduce now in case we find a ponder, because that's an important thing we can work with. Okay, we did not find a ponder. So if our opponent sends it now, they get to draw 14 cards and we lose the game. We are not having a good day. Okay, so they don't get to draw 14 cards, they only get to draw 7 cards. Does that make things better for us? Probably not. Our opponent is successfully going to hit all their land drops all the time, because they've drawn many, many cards here. I don't believe we have any reasonable ways of winning this game. But you never know, maybe our opponent just doesn't have anything. They only draw 7. If they drew 14, then I think I'd just scoop. Save my time. But you never know. Maybe we can just somehow get our way through this one. I think we definitely misplayed a little bit in the previous round. But there is nothing we can do against this sort of start. They got Entomb as well. So next turn, Grizzlebrand is going to have a friend. A big Atraxa. I suspect that means our opponent has either... Oh, is that it? It's just... They're going to be cleaning up as well. So I suspect this means they have an Ancient Tomb going on. That would be my assumption here. Sorry, not Ancient Tomb. Animate Dead. Sorry, wrong A name card. Lorien Revealed. It's not the one we wanted. I think it's better to draw from a clue than it is to deduce here. See if we can find that plow. A Thwart. That plays here. We can also deduce now and see if we can find a blue card or a Force of Will, something like that. Okay, so this doesn't help us out yet. Oh dear, we're struggling here. Yeah, so we needed a Force of Will to stop the second wave. But it's very unlikely to happen when they have 8 cards. And they can just draw another 7 if they wish. It's a Wasteland. That doesn't actually impact us that much right now. Maybe it makes it harder for us to Cryptic Command, because we could bounce this. But you and me both know that our Cryptic Command is not resolving. So they're going to reanimate an Atraxa here. We have one response. It's Thwart. I hate this so much. We are not going to resolve this spell. But we have to fight over this, otherwise we lose. Like, there's a slim chance we can plow this and maybe stabilize. If today's, it's a scoop from me. Yeah, that felt absolutely savage. I didn't feel like we were ever in that game at all. Just what we were doing wasn't great. And that sometimes happens. Like, this is the best deck in the format right now. It has the most challenged top 8s by a reasonable margin. 25% of the decks that are top 8 in challenges at the moment are Entomb Reanimate decks. So, yeah, bit awkward for us there. We've got one more round to go. We are 0-2 all the way down. I think we did punt one of the games, though. Now, whether or not we win the next game in that previous round, I don't know. But I think we definitely punted one of the games. Let's go to the final round and see if we can avoid the 0-10 at the very least. All right. Final round, sorry. Let's mulligan this one. It's just kind of a lot of air here. It's not really going anywhere. Like, if the Prismatic Endings are good, then this hand is good. Otherwise, this hand does literally nothing. Then we have to mulligan. Kingdom for a ponder here. All right, we have some action here. I think we get rid of the Merchant Scroll here. We have to begin the game with a Mystic Sanctuary, not where I want to be. But this enables us to have Swords to Plowshares, Counterspell, and Deduce up. So we'll be in an okay spot for a mull to 5. All right, we're not getting Wastelanded on turn 1. Step 1. Ponder, okay. Maybe our opponent is playing some Fair Magic too. I doubt it. Very few people are playing Fair Magic at the moment. It's not really a time for Fair Magic anymore. Okay, so we can play this Tundra and save this fetch land for later. I like that. All right, we have Actual Factual Counterspell. We have Swords to Plowshares. Oh, we get to Deduce here, straight into their Orcish Bowmasters. Loving it. I think we do probably need to do this still. Show me your Bowmasters. Here it is. Boom. There we go. Opponent is probably on the like Esper control deck with Kaito and stuff. I think that deck is reasonable. Prismatic Ending, that's fine. I will plow this Bowmaster and pass the turn, holding up Counterspell. We can take 2 from this and we can Prismatic Ending it later. We just need to keep the cards flowing. I don't want to snap off this clue now because we then go shields down on our Counterspell, which might be an important thing to use. They might flash in a Bowmasters for an extra point of damage. I doubt it, but it's a possibility. Alright, we're getting something here. It's a Fairy Time Raveler, which is some sort of cool bird. I've not actually seen this one before. I do like a nice bird. Big into my ornithological enjoyment there. Alright, let's smash away this with a counterspell. All right, ForceOfPhil. Okay, I'm going to bounce our clue. Yep, goodbye clue. A thwart. A little bit late to the party. So this doesn't work. If we'd have fetched the Volcanic, we probably could have Prismatic Ending the Teferi, but I'm not really worried about the Teferi right now. I think we just want to take this out so they can't put a Kaito in play. That's what I'm most scared of. Like, this Teferi's already done its work. It's shutting off our thwart, but I don't really want to be bouncing all my lands to cast this thwart yet. This is the thing we want in the late game. Having it early feels horrible. A Wasteland. Goodbye, Mystic Sanctuary. So that is why I did not want to fetch a Volcanic and just be completely cut off our white mana. Okay, what are we going to find with this Merchant Scroll? Will our opponent counter it just because it's a spooky thing that could do stuff? What does Piracy Charm do? None of these modes help. Okay, that's not great. How are we going to beat this Teferi? We could make some Thopters. That sounds pretty bad. We could just get some card advantage. Just get something like a Brainsurge and just try and draw up next turn. I think that's probably where I need to be here. If they've got another one, then we're in trouble. Sure, so Teferi's now loaded with another bounce, but if they bounce something, it will die, but we don't produce permanents, they need to bounce, so... does our opponent run Daze? I think we have to play out the Strand just in case they do. We want the Strand anyway afterwards, for the most part. Are we getting done here? We are getting done here. Excellent. I did say that this is a problem that we can certainly run into by casting this card. Well, we get to kill the big guy. Thwart is bad. Consign to Memory is unplayable at this moment in time. Yeah, goodbye to a bunch of our life total. Again, we have to fetch we could get a plane too. I think we're just going to get Tundra though. We don't get the opportunity to get the Volcanic yet. Just keep this massive creature off the board. There is a Ponder from our opponent at instant speed thanks to Teferi. Teferi ticking up. We can take a little hit from this. Like, I would have loved to have killed the Bowmasters with our Prismatic Ending, but I think we can't just allow them to have a massive guy there. Deduce. This is less painful than a Brainstorm, so I don't mind firing this off. They got another Bowmaster. Like, we could have Brainstormed over the top. I don't think that's where we need to be here. A Swords to Plowshares. Well, that's something, I guess. How is... I don't know how we win in this one. I'm just going to scoop this one up. All right. The 0-10 record is certainly hovering above us. Now, I think one of those games was on us, but I'm not feeling spectacular right now. So I think we want a Pyroblast. Our opponent's mana doesn't look great, but they have Wastelands, so I don't really want to board in these Wastelands. Consign to Memory, what is this hitting? It can stop a Bowmaster's trigger. That's not the most exciting thing. It can stop a Stoneforge Mystic trigger if they're on that particular list, though. So I don't mind having access to one of these. Do I? I think we're just better off having this removal, actually. Depose, deploy, that's fine. I say fine. I'm not convinced by it. All right, I'm going to submit this one. Like, we could board in this Monastery Mentor. That's not really what the game plan is. Island Ponder, I guess we keep this one. We probably have to fetch a non-basic unless we use the Volcanic, but this is our only red source. Okay, does that mean we're supposed to fetch a basic island here? I think it does. Yikes. Brainstorm, Brainstorm, Plow. These are okay cards. We'll sandwich the Plow. We want to get our Brainstorm action done before our opponent can play a Bowmasters. A Ponder from our opponent. So we can sit on this Counterspell. But the problem is, one of the spells we want to Counterspell most is a 2-drop. So I think I'm just going to Brainstorm here and just get these out of the way before the Bowmaster comes down. Okay, we didn't find another land. That's not great. So that's not a card we can cast anytime soon. It's not really a card we're casting anytime soon either. We don't have any white mana now. I guess we have to... Like, we could Brainstorm there and just dig one more card deeper. If it finds a land, it's great, but I'd rather have the option to dig 2 cards deeper. Right, so this is an Orcish Bowmasters all up in our business in the near future. Thanks, I hate it. We could Brainstorm response to that, or we could try and Counterspell whatever they do. If they get a Surveil land, then we can Brainstorm. But that turns off our Counterspell. So whatever we do, it's going to be awkward. It's just the Bowmasters. Let's just try and Counterspell this. Daze is good here. Right, we've got a ForceOfPhil. Storm Chaser's Talent, which one's that? Enters, create a 1/1 Otter with Prowess. When this class becomes level 2, return target instant sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue and red Otter token. I could play that in this deck, to be honest. 6 mana is a lot to get the highest side of this. But the 4 mana to get back a card is kind of like some of the stuff we're doing in our deck anyway. What is this? Momentum Breaker. When this enchantment enters, each opponent sacrifices a creature or vehicle of their choice. Each opponent who can't discards a card. Sacrifice enchantment, you gain life equal to your speed. Okay. What are we even going to discard here? So the Brainstorm is the thing that maybe finds us the answer to what's in play. But we're going to have to take a hit to cast the Brainstorm. I think that's okay. We keep our removal spells because our opponent is fundamentally trying to play creatures and win with some number of creatures. The Depose Deploy can give us 1/1 blockers down the stretch. This is probably the weakest card in our hand, so I think this probably has to go. Let's discard this Deploy, Depose. Alright, they're going up in the speed. I think the correct play here, as horrible as it is to cast a Brainstorm. Now we're just in it. We need to get through it, which is the only way. We found the white source. Okay, so Wasteland is obviously going to be a nightmare for us if our opponent can find it. I think we have to do the get rid of the big token, save ourselves a little bit of damage. Just get rid of this one. Okay, we're getting close to stability here. We've had to use our life total a bunch to get to this point. But we can kill this. We have a Brainsurge to reload and a Deduce. It's another option. They're getting more speed. This just sacrifice for life. That's not really important. Okay, I would like to cast a Swords to Plowshares targeting this Orcish Bowmasters. Right, then we can pass. They want to play an Orcish Bowmasters at end step. We can draw a card in response. Felia. Don't like Felia very much. Let's draw a card. So this makes us discard when they blink it every time. I think we're just going to say no to this and then try and reload with a Brainsurge. Because I don't want them making us discard a card every turn. So this is going to cost us 2 cards if we let it in play anyway. And there's always the threat of Kaito, which just wins the game against us so often. Would love to have... Okay, this is okay. This is... Alright. What do we want back here? It's probably the Force of Will, just so we have something to sit on. It's kind of awkward. So I want to cast this Brainsurge. Alright, I think we'll have the Force just as a safety blanket here. We'll cast this Brainsurge. Holding up Plow for Bowmasters. Ophelia. That's fine. They're doing this before we have counter magic available. Okay, have we played land yet this turn? We have. We played the Mystic Sanctuary. So the land can go on top and the Magma Opus can go underneath it. That is... Actually, no, we need this for a blue card, don't we? If we want to plow this, which I think we do, it means we're probably putting Plains and then Prismatic Ending on top. And then I would like to plow this creature so we're not discarding cards all the time. Stability is almost here. Having to pitch the Magma Opus is pretty annoying because we have 1 win condition on our deck and it's this Depose Deploy. Disruptor Flute is fine. What are they going to name here? They name the Force of Will that they know is in our hand, but I don't think that's the most exciting for them. Okay, they've chosen the Force of Will. Okay. Have a Prismatic Ending. Our opponent has no black mana, so now is definitely the time to draw a card with this clue token. We're going to draw a Plains. We know that. We've already seen it before. I'll just deploy this, and we'll sit on this Prismatic Ending. So the Magma Opus can give us an additional colour of mana. So we can do a Prismatic Ending for 5. Not I think that's going to be relevant here. So we can Force of Will through this because it only makes it cost 3 more. Merchant Scroll. Let's do that. What can this find us? Probably just want to get Deduce going, right? And just get more cards. This is also a different blue card for Force of Will if we need it. Ophelia. I really want our opponent to be able to untap and start blinking this annoying thing here. If we bin off the Magma Opus, then this is our only win condition. Or our opponent naturally decking. Yikes. This is a tough call here. I can't just let them just strip our hand over and over again. But maybe we just have to let them do that. If we're discarding the Magma Opus, that's not so bad, because this is just a discard when it blinks. So at least it'll be in our graveyard, so it's going to be in the pool of things we get to use later on. And then we can just Prismatic Ending this. It's not great, but it's a situation we are in. Right, so they're going to get max speed now. Not that that's really relevant for anything in their deck. Alright, I'm going to cast this Deduce here. Another ending, okay. We didn't find the blue card I wanted. But our Force of Will isn't great anyway, so maybe we just actually pitch the Force of Will here. And keep working towards our Magma Opus. Can I remove you, Felia? We can. I would like to draw a card. Whilst our opponent's shown us they don't have the most going on. Okay, we have a Ponder. Let's get that going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we have enough mana here. So we'll put the Lorien Revealed on top and we'll draw 3 cards that next turn. Yes, we do have to draw the Force of Will that we don't really want. But we have a draw 3, which then sets us up for a Magma Opus the turn after. Provided we find a land. We could just turn it into a land and have the Magma Opus, but I think it's better to draw a bunch of cards. We've got through a lot of our opponent's Bowmasters at this point as well. 1, 2... I don't think we need the red mana here. Please don't have a Bowmasters. If they do, then we ping a bunch of stuff down. 3 mana. Just a hard cast Force of Will. Oh, they pitched Force of Will. Okay, so this is a 2 for 1. I'll take that. Because their own Force of Wills are locked out by the Disruptor Flute. That makes sense. I think we're drawing the Force of Will now, which isn't what we want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's not actually castable unless we pitch our Magma Opus, which we really can't afford to do. It's another failure. We can just let them discard our Force of Will, and then we can just Prismatic Ending it again. Okay, we're having a real game at least. Get your discard engine going. It's pretty cool. I've not really seen anyone doing this before. Like, it's removal or discard. It's pretty handy. Yep, ponder from our opponent. Our life total is not the happiest it's ever been, but can't have everything. Goodbye Force of Will. We could just send a Magma Opus if we draw a land this turn. It's another stinky Force of Will. Okay. Let's try and get rid of this failure. If something really, really scary happens, we can Force of Will pitch our Magma Opus. The problems that gives us are huge. I think just having the Magma Opus, which can clean this up, is where I want to be. We have a lot of lands in our deck, I believe. We can take 2 hits from this before we have to Magma Opus. Just don't play any more threats, please, opponent. We don't need more threats. Okay, I ponder, that's fine. Omen of the Sea. Yeah, cool. This is another thing to blink with failure. Alright, land. Land would be so sick here. Not a land. It's a ponder. Do we have to cast this ponder? If we cast this ponder, we die on the next turn. So the answer to that is no. Because pondering here, we take 1, this grows by 1. So we missed on the land that we needed. Like, I've gone for the higher roll of trying to have the Magma Opus here. I think that's correct. It's the line to win the game rather than lose the game slower. Come on, deck. We just need a land. They got another Bowmaster. That's lethal anyway. All right. That is the end of that one. Yeah. Probably the worst league I've ever played. Truth be told. I don't know if we've ever had an 0-10 before. Maybe once in however many years I've been doing this now. I think we did punt 1 game in round 3 against the Blue-Black Reanimator deck when we kind of had everything sorted, but then it kind of fell apart. And I think there's some significant problems with the list I'd like to talk about. So, I think one of the problems this deck has is that it's kind of too lost in the sauce. So it's got this selection of cards here, and I think the Cryptic Command also belongs in there. Consign Memory in the main deck is fine. I have no problems with that. Counterspell also fine. But this pile of cards is... like, we never really got to leverage Cryptic Command. We never got to leverage Magma Opus. We never got to do this. Piracy Charm came up once and was good. Witness the Future, I understand why it's in here because it gives you that inevitability to shuffle stuff in. But if we just actually played ways of winning the game, we wouldn't need to do this. And we could actually just play a normal game of Magic maybe. And not have to rely on something like this. And the Brainsurge, this is fine. This is just a piece of card advantage. So that's fine. I don't have an issue with that one. I can go over here. And then because we're running these like spicy things, we're then running Merchant Scroll. And Merchant Scroll is not very good, in my opinion. Like, if you're doing combo stuff with it, sure. But this is 2 mana. Most of the time, we're just going to be getting Force of Wills or whatever. But in, like, a fair matchup, this card doesn't feel good. Maybe we're supposed to board out in the fair matchups. Maybe that's where I'm going wrong. But it just feels very slow for what it does. And what it does is telegraph your next, like, piece of interaction to your opponent. And the fact it doesn't get any removal in a format where people were just playing things that need to be removed immediately isn't ideal to me. I think if you want to build a blue-white control build that is good against combo, the answer isn't to play a bunch of Merchant Scroll. It's to play a bunch of Force of Negation in the main deck and just have more of this turn 0 effect. Because, sure, we can go and shoot with something on turn 2, but that's too late. Our opponent's already got Grizzlebrand or whatever, or they've stormed off. This just isn't doing it for me. Deduce doesn't feel great to me. Like, this is very, very slow card advantage. We can do better than this, surely. So the build we played yesterday did feel better than this. And I think this is just getting a bit lost in the sauce, in my opinion. Now, I do not believe we played this deck remotely perfect at all. And I know that if Phil would play this deck, he would probably end up winning one of these rounds somewhere along the lines. But it felt really rough. It felt like we were trying to work really, really hard when we shouldn't be. Like, Legacy at the moment is a format where you don't necessarily have to work harder. You just need to work a bit smarter, right? There are so many ways that you can just say, oh, I'm just going to win the game with this. I'm going to win the game with this. And, there's tools like Kaito that exists for sort of the slower controller decks. And that card is just an absolute beast. It gives you board presence, it controls the board, it draws you cards, it does everything you want to do. And that's kind of what this deck feels like it's lacking. It doesn't have any board presence ever. And that feels like a real issue in Legacy at the moment. And by not having board presence, it also means that we're really struggling against a lot of Planeswalkers. And we can't just like reliably counterspell everything that comes down, because that's not how Legacy works. People have enough stuff that, you know, forces you to tap on your turn to like ending it or whatever. Maybe they cast something at your end step. Okay, if I counterspell this, they can then untap and play something. There's a lot of stuff like that going on. So I don't think just trying to counterspell everything works. We don't even have like that many counterspells. So I'm not really convinced that we have the right suite of tools to handle Legacy at the moment in a deck that looks like this. I think this has gone the other way to where I would go. So if I was trying to make the deck better against sort of the broken combo stuff, instead of having a bunch of this cute stuff, I would try and err towards having just more of the solid stuff. There's only so many slots of cute things you get to do in Legacy right now. And I think this has gone way too far. I think the build we played yesterday on the channel was a lot better. I quite enjoyed playing that deck. It didn't feel like it was doing too many cute things. It had a few in there, but it felt like we were mostly just doing, you know, good, normal stuff. We weren't getting like jammed up with Magma Opus and Cryptic Command in hand. Maybe we're supposed to cycle this earlier for a treasure, but a lot of the time we didn't actually need the mana from this. So it just wasn't doing anything. It was like, okay, this is a blue card. Do we pitch this to ForceOfPhil? That could be a problem, because then we end up not having any ways of winning the game at all, unless our opponent naturally decks, which is a way we can win the game, but I'm not sure that's the way we want to try and win the game. It does feel like we need a repeatable source of card advantage. So if you look at, you know, decks with Kaito in, they just have this repeatable source of card advantage they can set up. We need some board presence. I think that's a key part of playing the long game in Legacy right now. You need something that can sit and play and do stuff and accrue you advantage. Whether that advantage is chipping away your opponent's life total, pressuring them so they have to go off into the tools you have, or, you know, stopping them from attacking you is a big deal, so you don't have to remove every single threat immediately. There's a lot of ways that you could run a control deck differently to this. I think I would prefer. I think you want something like Kaito or Uro or something along those lines to really help out. Now, the previous build had Counterbalance, which kind of gives you this edge where you get to say no to a whole bunch of different things your opponent has. But I definitely think this is a build that I would just simply not want to play again, to be honest. Now, there's some things I like the Void Mirror in the sideboard. I think that's an interesting tool that I would like to leverage against Eldrazi. You board out a bunch of counter magic. You board in the Void Mirror. So you're basically just running on Void Mirror and Consigns instead of Force of Wills, and that's going to feel pretty solid, I think. Maybe have even more of them if that's a matchup you're worried about, which I suspect it probably is with a deck like this. But this is definitely not one that I can give my seal of approval to, I'm afraid. Now, I know Phil does a lot better with this deck than I ever will, because, you know, he's been brewing this, he's been jamming this sort of deck for a long time. But I think this is a bit lost in the sauce. Let's have a quick look at the build from yesterday. So this is the build from yesterday, and as you can see, it's a little bit cleaner in my opinion. So if we're looking at how many, like, you know, I don't want to say silly cards, but, you know, how many spicy fun cards we have in it sort of thing. It's like, we're running Fortune Teller's Talent. We have Flusterstorm. This is fine. You know, this is a reasonable card to see in someone's main deck. So Fortune Teller's Talent is kind of like the weird standout card from all of this. Now, obviously, we have Witness the Future, which is kind of a little bit odd, and we have the Legacy's Allure, but yesterday we discussed how Legacy's Allure has a purpose, right? It is very good against Bowmasters, means you can actually do your stuff into Bowmasters. We saw how easily we got shredded by Bowmasters today. So I understand the reason for having this. I think this makes more sense than the Piracy Charm, but it's kind of doing that sort of job. And that's it, really. You know, the Thwart thing is like our late game engine. Obviously sucks when we draw it early on, which we do all the time, apparently. But yeah, so like the sort of the sillier stuff is basically these cards. Now, obviously, Witness the Future is, because we have so few win conditions, and we have this sort of soft lock in our deck, we have this to enable it. I don't know if there's a better way of doing that. There just has to be. I think just playing a win condition that is also a controlling piece is probably a good idea. But Fortune Teller's Talent, this card did not impress me yesterday. But we have far fewer like bits to stumble over in this deck, and that's actually ended up with us winning the game more. We didn't get like stranded with our Cryptic Command and Magma Opus in our hand when we played this deck yesterday. Secure the Waste. This is the win condition that is actually pretty viable on its own. Like, you can just play this for 2 mana, put something in front of a Bowmasters, and then all of a sudden you've cleaned up a problem that you had. So this is a much more serviceable card, in my opinion, than the win conditions in the build we played today. So I wouldn't be ashamed to play a deck that looked like this. I think this was a lot more solid than the build we played today, even if yesterday wasn't a great day for us either. I would definitely get rid of this Fortune Teller's Talent. Like, I wouldn't even mind just turning that into a Secure the Waste. Just having 2 win conditions, you know, doubling our win conditions wouldn't hurt, right? The Legacy Allure, I understand why it's in there, but it didn't impress me that much. And I think you want an Exercise in here somewhere. That card just seems quite an important piece if I was playing my own blue-white control deck. So, obviously, when you play somebody else's like highly brewed personal deck, it's never going to go as well for you as it does for them. And that's certainly what we found in the last couple of days playing this deck. But there's definitely something here. I think it's just a little bit, like today's build I think was too lost in the sauce. I think this one is much more appropriate. And probably next week I'm going to try and play my own, you know, hard control deck that I'm brewing and see how that fares into the world we're living in at the moment. All right, I hope you enjoyed this one. Please check out the Eternal Durdles podcast as well. Phil's got some excellent insights into Legacy, even if he gets a little bit lost in the sauce, in my opinion, when he's playing Magma Opus and stuff. However, his insights into like the core fundamentals that constructed this deck and the parts of this that were actually really good is incredible, and you should definitely check it out. All right, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.